All right, and we are back with another podcast episode. Just me today again. Lizer will not be here for this episode. Should have him back next week. Just really busy schedule for him. But congratulations to him for actually calling out the exact amount of games. You do have a new NBA champion for 2023, and that would be the Denver Nuggets. Lizer did predict 5. You can find that on our Twitter, which I'll put up right now at Inside Stadium. We put our prediction out right before Game 1 and went from there. So I chose 6. Gentlemen sweep. Denver is going to be your NBA champions, and we are going to dive into that a little bit. So putting that graphic up right now, you'll kind of look at all of the ways that Denver just dominated. Okay, they just dominated. They were consistent throughout the whole entire NBA playoffs. Field goal percentage-wise, Game 1, 50.6%. Game 2, 52%. Game 3, 51.3%. Game 4, 49.4%. And then even going from, which arguably was one of their most terrible shooting percentages of the night, which was 54.2. The series. 45.2. That was the worst they did all the whole entire series, and they still ended up winning that game to clinch this. Going from there, we have the 3-point percentage. They're not a 3-point team. At least they were not this series. That is something Miami is definitely not, but they tended to shoot better 3-point wise consistently. But looking at Denver with these stats, 29.6, 39.3, 27.8 in Game 3, 50% in Game 4. That was the best they ever did. And then in Game 5, 17.9. You shot 17.9% and only shot 45.2 from the floor in Game 5. And still ended up winning the championship with that. If that doesn't speak volumes on Denver's defense, then I don't know what else you could say. Because Denver wasn't just scoring and outscoring Miami. They were holding Miami to a lot of bad shots, contested shots. They were making Miami work for it. And we're going to get to Miami stats in here in just a minute. But even looking at free throw percentages, they made the most of their opportunities with free throw percentage. Game 1, 80%. Game 2, 86.4%. But then they started to fall back a little bit, and you'll see that here. 81.5 Game 3 to 76.2. And then the worst of all, again, their worst game played of the series was the one that they won the championship on, 56.5%. Consistency. Denver was consistent. And that's all they needed to do. And I'll show you why here as we pull up the Miami stats. Miami in field goal percentage here, 40.6 in Game 1, 48.7, 37 in Game 3. That is a massive drop. The game that they won was Game 2. And Denver outshot them 52% to 48.7% on the field. You took that game, went back to your home court where you took home court advantage and then proceeded to shoot 37%. That is a lot to say with Denver and how they made Miami have to take contested shots, bad shots half the time because the shot clock was running down. And that was a major factor in this series. Miami was doing that to other teams. And in other words, the Heat died out. It did. I don't think there's another way you can say that. Game 4, they did bounce back, though, with 44.9%. 0.5 better than Denver. But the biggest difference is going to be when we show you here is the 3-point. The 3-pointer was a big factor for Miami. They needed to hit the 3-point to consistently compete, and they weren't able to do that. They were not. Game 1, 33.3. They lost by 11 points, I believe, that game. Game 2, 48.6. The game they won was their best 3-point shooting night. Game 3, 31.4. Game 4, 32%. And then last night they shot 25.7. Because this is recorded today on June 13th, which is Tuesday. This will drop tomorrow. What else can you say? The way these stats are, you can't paint a clearer picture. You can't. The way that this series played out was just straight consistency from Denver and doing what Miami has done to other teams to get to the finals, Denver did to them. It's amazing when you also look at somebody like Jokic, and you look at him and you say, he doesn't look very athletic. He's a bigger guy. He's not really muscular. Dude doesn't even jump. He doesn't have to jump for his shots, and he still makes them. And he's not just down in the rim in the paint, and he's just banking it off the glass. No, he's shooting mid-range shots. He's shooting from 12, 15 feet out. He's shooting three-pointers. And that'll show on his stats when we get to it here in just a minute. There is nothing you can say. Jokic was dominant. They did not have an answer for him. And when you needed Jimmy Butler had his moments, but he wasn't the Jimmy Butler you expected. The player that showed up for Miami was Bam Adebayo. And Adebayo was the guy that showed up for Miami. There was almost no match for him. They didn't want Jokic on him in Game 5 because he ended up in foul trouble early. So Jokic didn't guard him Game 5. They let Aaron Gordon guard him because obviously if you want to have somebody get fouled out, you're going to take Aaron Gordon fouling out over Jokic. It's just the way it is. Free throw percentages for Miami, 100% Game 1. But they had the lowest amount of attempted free throws in NBA history in a finals game. And that is 2. They had 2. The previous record was 3. They had 2. And that's noted at the bottom right. 90% Game 2. They finally made opportunities at the line. They started to create ways to add more pressure on Denver. And it showed. They had their best night in Game 2, and that's why they won Game 2. Game 3, 78.9% compared to 81.5% from Denver. Denver just was all around better that game. 51.3% Game 3 for Denver shooting-wise compared to 37% for Miami. And then Game 4, 85% from free throw. And then last night, 87.5%. Denver was god-awful at shooting free throws last night. They made 5 of 28. But Miami wasn't any better. 9 of 35. When it comes, that's from 3-point. From free throws, Miami hits 14 of 16 and hit 87.5%. Denver had 13 makes out of 23 attempts. That is absolutely terrible. Somehow they were able to pull it off. You look at those stats, and you show somebody those stats, and I guarantee you they will say, how did that team win? They had a lower 3-point percentage make. They had at least the lower amount of free throw percentage make, but they shot better from the field. They hit 38 of their 84 attempts from the field, the Nuggets did. Miami took 96 shots and only made 33 of them. You took almost 100 shots in a game, 100 field goal attempts, and you lost because you couldn't make your shots. And again, that has to say a lot on Denver and how dominant their defense was in creating bad situations for Miami to where they were trying to get a switch or trying to get movement, but it didn't matter who you got switched to. They were creating trouble. Denver's defense was creating trouble. They were making it harder on them to find baskets and to be able to make baskets. I mean, there's not much more you could say on that. But pulling up for this one, Jokic, I mean, talk about dominance. Denver found themselves a franchise guy. In the NBA Finals, they call him a joker. Jokic is the joker. And he played like he was out of his damn mind. There is no doubt about that. He played like he was out of his damn mind. 30.2 points per game. he averaged. He also averaged 7.2 assists per game, and he averaged 14 rebounds per game. And Bam Adebayo still got his rebounds. So it wasn't like he was out-rebounded. Jokic just had 14 a game. And then you look at his shooting percentage, his field goal percentage, 58.3, and he shot 42.3 from three. Now, that whole entire series, he made, it looks like, 8 attempts, or he made 8 3-pointers out of about 19 attempts, 21 attempts. He's not a dominant 3-point shooter, but he did his job. 42% for somebody of his size, where he doesn't even really jump. That says a lot about his athleticism, I would say. I mean, Denver, you got something special. You sure have something special, because it looks like you might have, I don't even know how else to say it. This might be an upcoming dynasty. This might be the next dynasty. You've seen the Warriors. You've seen Miami prior to that, and the Spurs. Is this the next dynasty? Because to me right now, I don't know if there's any other team that can beat them. If this team continues to stay how they are and stay healthy, because you have Jokic and you have Murray. And breaking down Murray, I mean, Murray did not have the best series of his time. I mean, he did not. He did not have the best series. His best series was against the Lakers when they swept them. Points per game, he had 21.4. Murray did. He proceeded to also have 10 assists per game and then 6.2 rebounds per game while shooting 45.1% from field goal, which is still pretty damn good, and 38.7% from three. He obviously took a lot more three-point attempts, but he made 2 or more every single game. Those 2 alone are your centerpieces. And you know what? It is absolutely amazing to see Jamal Murray play the way he did after all the injuries he's had. He's tearing his ACL. He missed the playoffs a couple years ago because of it. And now he goes into this with Jokic and the bench with Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. and Caldwell Pope. A mixture of veterans and a mixture of young guys coming up. Bruce Brown did pretty well for his NBA Finals. The way that this team is mashed together and is just built is a championship winning basketball team. And there's no other way of saying that. But congratulations to Denver, the city of Denver, the state of Colorado, and any Denver Nugget fans, because the way you guys played all year and the way this team played all year, well deserved. Well deserved. We talked about it months ago when we had a couple, updates with the NBA season. Me and Eliza said it multiple times. I don't think there was a team that could touch the Nuggets, and they proved it. They proved it. But your 2023 NBA champions are the Denver Nuggets. Moving on from basketball, though. Kind of off of basketball a little bit, though. The same applies with basketball as it is right now with MLB. With baseball right now, you have the All-Star voting going on. And the same can be said about the NBA. You might have to have the argument here, and I'm going to have the argument here, where the All-Star voting for fans needs to go. It needs to go. When you have players, and I've seen this happen multiple years in a row, Kevin Durant will get hurt or not play the first 20 games of the season, and then he'll play the next 15, and then fans vote him into the All-Star game. Yes, he is an All-Star. Yes, he is a good talent. Yes, these players are the epitome of what basketball All-Stars should look like. and should play like. But when you're not playing that season and you miss X amount of games in the season, that should not be allowed. It is based on who is playing their mind out that season, not based off of who had a better career so far. I've seen too many people that have been lights out shooting in basketball to where they should be a starter and they end up being a reserve or not even in at all because fan voting. And that's going to continue here with baseball because putting this up on the screen, I don't know what the hell is going on with MLB voting, but when you look at Josh Naylor, who is currently sitting 10th in voting, to Jared Walsh, who is sitting 7th, look at these stats with me, if you will. 202 at-bats for Naylor, compared to Josh Walt's 52. Naylor has 57 hits. Jared Walsh has 6. Josh Naylor has 23 runs. Jared Walsh has 3. RBIs, Naylor has 48. Walsh has 4. Walks, Naylor 16. Walsh 11. 8 home runs for Naylor, 0 for Walsh. 282 batting average to 115. Are you serious? We are talking now a huge gap in average, and this is how we're going to look at the All-Star voting and see who's better. Fan voting's got to stop. I understand you want as many players as you want from your team representing, but they got to earn it. We cannot just keep giving players All-Star appearances because you like them or because you think they're your favorite player. Naylor played 57 games. Walsh just played 21. And right there alone, for 7th place for Walsh and 10th for Naylor, I mean, this is ridiculous. Fan voting's got to go. And that's just for one position. We can continue here. I mean, the same thing pretty much applies for Adolis Garcia versus Kevin Kiermaier. Now, there's not as much of a gap, but still the same thing will apply here. Kevin Kiermaier is 5th in voting in the American League for the outfield. Adolis Garcia 6th. When you look at these, Garcia has 243 at-bats. Kiermaier has 162. 48 runs for Garcia, 27 for Kiermaier. 64 hits for Garcia, 48 for Kiermaier. 54 for Garcia in RBIs compared to 16 for Kiermaier. 24 walks for Garcia, 14 for Kevin Kiermaier. The only thing that you can really base your voting off of for this is the average, but that's not all you can look at to determine this. You can't just look at the stats and just say, oh, he's batting better. Well, he's batting better average-wise because he doesn't have as many at-bats. He's still 26 hits less. He has 26 less hits than Garcia. He has 21 less runs than Garcia. Garcia is definitely beating him in RBIs by 54 to 16. I mean, you got to look at everything. You can't just be like, oh, he's batting better. Better batting average. Put him in. Garcia has 15 home runs, 4 for Kevin Kiermaier. And Garcia has only done all this difference in the terms of at-bats, the terms of runs, the terms of hits, the terms of RBIs, and he's hit a lot more home run. But Garcia is a home run hitter, so that's kind of a little skewed in a sense. But he's done all this in 10 more games. So, of course, his batting average is going to be slightly lower. What else do you expect? But the way that these fans are voting on stuff is just, it's absolutely ridiculous. Fernando Tatis missed a whole entire month, and he's already one of the top guys to potentially be a starter/reserve. When there are people that have played more baseball and have numbers similar to what you're looking at right now with Garcia and Kiermaier, where they're skewed because of the fact that he has a better batting average, doesn't mean he's having a better year. To me, this is something that has been an issue for a long time, and fan voting is just, it's a disease to All-Star Game and All-Star Game voting. It needs to be selected on by a group committee, in my opinion, to where you look at all the stats. You got to take in there how many at-bats have they done? How many games have they played? Where's the difference? Find all those runs, home runs, RBIs, OBS, OPS, all that stuff. It needs to be accounted for in your calculations because when you look at these numbers, to me, this pisses me off. You got guys that are playing a lot more games that are way down the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to voting. And you got guys that have only played, like Jared Walsh, 21 games. And he has a 115 batting average and he's 7th in voting for that position. And I just use Naylor as an example here. There are other players on that list that are definitely in between Naylor and Walsh that should probably be over Walsh as well. Something's got to give because that's just unbelievable. Something else to talk about real quick with baseball. It does look like the Detroit Tigers are finally making their fall from grace. Looking at this for standing wise, Tigers were in second place last week or 2 weeks ago. They are 1 win out of the last 10 games. They are 1-9 in the last 10. Went from second place to fourth place. They've been falling and they've been falling hard. The Blue Jays continue to struggle. Their starting pitching has not been what it was supposed to be, but what's really weird in all this is the Oakland Athletics have won 5 or 6 in a row right now. As the day of this recording, they're 6-4 in their last 10. They are still going to finish bottom in the West. Don't get me wrong on that. But just looking at where this winning streak came from, it's almost like the movie Moneyball. Except for this is regular season and not trying to make it to where you make it to the postseason. This is not like the last run before then to get to the postseason. Cardinals were winning last year, and I seen this stat. The Cardinals were the best team when it came to winning within one-run games. This year, they are the worst. The Arizona Diamondbacks, they look like the legit team. And that's something I wish I had Eliza here for right now. But I understand that stuff happens and we get busy schedules. And that's why I missed, 2 weeks ago we missed our podcast. We didn't have a chance. I was out of town. He was coming back from vacation, but I wasn't here. So we're going to talk about this next week then. And I know he's going to listen to this. So he's going to have to elaborate on some of this stuff with me next week. Because Arizona looks like the legit team. This gives him one more week to find out who the actual team is, because this is where we're going to go next week with it. We're going to be talking about who the team is to beat. Right now, the Diamondbacks have one more win and one less loss than the Atlanta Braves. The best team in the National League is the Arizona Diamondbacks. I did not think I'd be saying that this year. If you go back and listen to our video of predictions for our MLB season, I believe I put the Rockies above Arizona. Looking at this now, my God, was I wrong. But that was my take. And that's just how it is with these podcasts. Me and Eliza are very big avid sports fans, and we are always going to give you what we believe is going to happen, what we believe is true, what we believe is going to be the final result in our mind, in our opinion. And sometimes we're wrong and sometimes we're right. Sometimes we're close. Like I said, Lizer, congratulations on picking Denver to win in 5. I picked them in 6 to win. They did the gentleman's sweep and won it 4-1. But I can't wait for next week's episode. We're going to be talking a little bit more on this baseball, elaborating on all the stuff that we were going to talk about this week. We're going to cut it short this week. So make sure you follow us on Twitter. I'm putting that link up right now. And you guys have a good rest of the week. Take care.